possible. Whatever, let's see what happens. Okay, it's recording. Cool. Okay. Hi, my name is Devin.
No, 1 second. I don't think.
Yeah, okay, we can start over. Okay, cool. Hi, my name is Devin.
And I'm Neha.
And we're both residents with Doing Things with Stories. And today we're going to have a conversation to kind of introduce you guys to the work that we're doing. And we're going to jump right into it. So Neha, I have a question. So can you tell me a little bit more about your campaign, Why Lauder? Its like conceptions, its method, and its politics.
So in the year 2014, I read this very interesting book called Why Loiter, which has been written by three Indian feminists, Shilpa Phadke, Shilpa Ranade, and Samira Khan. And what they've written in the book basically just spoke to me so strongly. It said that women do not access public spaces the way men do. Men can be seen, outside at all times, doing nothing, doing something, but they never have to kind of justify why they're outside. Whereas women constantly have to justify their presence in the public space, going to work, going to school, or picking up a kid from school, going shopping, and that is not right. And the book basically said that to make this world a better place for women and a safer place for women, and a place where women are equal citizens of their country, you also have to start going out and loitering and reclaiming public spaces for pleasure, and not have to give any answers for why you are in public. So I read the book and I got really inspired, and I wanted to do it for myself because I had also been conditioned with the same values. And I started loitering and started clicking photos and putting them up on social media. And soon a lot of women started, getting curious, asked me what we were doing. And that's how it became a campaign, like from the personal to the larger collective. And we've been loitering for the last 8 years now. Um, and yeah, that's what the campaign is.
Cool. Thank you.
So let me ask you a little bit about your work, and what is it that inspires you and where it is right now?
Yeah, so I have a couple of initiatives that I'm working on right now. One of them is called Kama, or KMMA question mark, and it means Kama Mam Adina, which is Wolof who owns the world. And it is a cotton processing mill. So we start from the raw cotton and we transform it into thread and eventually into textiles. And that's kind of an important work in a sense that like a lot in Africa in general, but Senegal in particular with cotton provides a lot of the raw primary resources and raw materials, but there actually really isn't the infrastructure to kind of transform the raw materials to get more kind of profit and value from the final products. So working on that. And the other initiative I'm doing right now is called Seek Lab, and it's like a boutique and like pop-up exhibition, pop-up shop. We just had our first edition, like it's happening right now during the Dakar Biennale. And it's another way to engage with like small independent designers and artists, and it's like create spaces to get their work out there and spaces to create community around the work that they're creating and they're doing.
Sounds
And I
wonderful.
have, yeah, and I guess I have okay, more questions about Why Lauder. So you said that the Why Lauder campaign is a minimum. Oh, sorry, wrong question. Oh, we edited it out. Sorry. So you say that
Okay,
you
listen,
have like
listen.
that the.
So the noise levels have kind of gone up. I'm wondering what's happening.
It's my child and.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, well, we can pause because this is really good. We're just at the next question, so we don't have to like stop it. Maybe I'll close the door. I'll explain how I'm gonna close the door. In 1 second. So maybe we could just pick up right at me asking you the second question.
Sure.
Okay, it should be easy to edit out. Okay, cool. So I have another question for you, Neha, about White Loader. So you said the right to risk and the right to pleasure form the foundation of this campaign. Can you please elaborate on that?
Sure. Um, so, in India, and I'm sure around the world, girls are taught from a very early age to um, always be kind of scared of the outside world, and always kind of, have this fear, like, don't go here, don't go there, something might happen, don't talk to strangers, dress appropriately, and don't be too loud, don't be too visible, those kind of things. And also in a lot of women's rights campaigns, this kind of, the right to safety, and we need safety and security and protection, and our lives are in danger, or our bodies are in danger. This has been the usual narrative, um, which is understandable, because there is a lot of crime against women that happens in India as around the world. um, but Loiter has a slightly different approach. I mean, we also want to make the world safer for women, but we are basically saying that we are going to exercise our right to pleasure, and we are going to exercise our right to take risks and be out in this world, and engage with our cities, our spaces, the way men do, without having this fear narrative going on in our heads 24/7, that we are putting ourselves in danger. So we are going to exercise pleasure, we are going to exercise risk, and it is not our responsibility to be safe. It is actually the responsibility of the state, the government, the police, and society in general, to make women feel safer. And now it's been enough time that women have been given this responsibility, and now we're saying it's not our responsibility anymore. So in that sense, Violator is always trying to push the envelope, and say that we are not going to be fearful and scared all the time anymore, and we are going to live in this world as if nothing bad is going to happen to us. So that's the right to risk and the right to pleasure that we exercise.
Okay, wow, that's beautiful. That makes a lot of sense.
So now I have a question for you, Devin. And what I would like to know is, how does your work balance the capitalistic and images based aspects of fashion with the paths that allow for identity formation?
So yeah, I mean, I think that we know kind of right now the state of fashion. At this point, we kind of know about fast fashion. We know about the effects on the environment. We know about exploitation of people, like in sweatshops, and just kind of the general kind of exploitation of the world, of people, and like resources that it takes to kind of have fashion be what it is at this point in history. Um, and I guess the way that work that I do in both of the initiatives that I've co-founded or founded is really kind of making sure that like we leave space for reflection of what we're doing in every step of kind of the chain in fashion. So with Kama, which is like academy, we're working with like the primary resources. And with C-Lab, it's very much on the end. We're like kind of selling and getting the final kind of results out there to people. So they're kind of on the opposite ends of fashion, but obviously they're very much connected to each other. Like you can't have the final product without the primary resources, and primary resources need to be transformed into something. So to like get more value from them. So just thinking that along every single step along the way in creating and working together with like people and just creating the objects that we're taking time to reflect, so we're not reproducing the systems of exploitation that are already in place in fashion. And these systems have been in place for so long that they run like very smoothly and they're efficient, truth be told. Like capitalism has made exploiting people and exploiting the earth extremely efficient. And in some ways, when it comes to thinking about fashion as a space that people, it's a livelihood for people. People make a profit. People make their their living off of working the raw materials or selling these finished products. So just thinking like how along every single aspect of this that we're stopping to reflect on how we can make this entire thing better for every single person working along every single part of the chain of fashion. So that's kind of how we do that, because there's fashion, it creates so much space for people to transform themselves, to kind of you know, to imagine different versions of themselves in different contexts, to play with who they are and how they express themselves. And that's so beautiful. And like it's such a part of like, what it means to be a human. But yes, there needs to be much more deeper reflection on how to make sure we're not recreating systems that are just hurting people and our environment.
That sounds like a huge challenge, but also something that's so important and so relevant, at least now when everybody's more aware and more sensitive about these things. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I have more questions for you. So you say that Why Lauder is a minimalist performance. Could you explain that?
So this isn't something that I thought of. It's a research student called Kat was visiting, and she joined us in our loitering, and she said, "You know what? This is like the most minimalistic, organic performance that I've seen in my life." And then, of course, we had a huge discussion about it, and I've also started understanding it in that sense that when we are loitering, we are kind of imagining the world uh, as it should be for women, the ideal world where every woman can step out, engage with it without any sense of fear, and we are in a way pretending and acting as if that ideal world already exists, and we are going to behave in it as if this is an ideal world where nothing will happen to us and nobody is going to harass us. So, in that sense, we are actors playing out these parts of imagining a world that is ideal. And also, then everybody who's looking at us, the bystanders, the bystanders, the shopkeepers, the people going by, they all become our audience because they are in fact looking at this performance happening where women are pretending that this world is a ideal place, and in that sense then we are normalizing the sight of women in public spaces, just hanging out, having fun. So the actors, that is us women who are loitering, and the onlookers, we both become part of this performance, where we are both part of this imagined world where everything is safe and everything is great. So I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. And um, it also kind of answers the question of that loitering is a very individualistic exercise. But as soon as we involve the onlookers, who are people who are looking at us, which could be children, grown ups, people from all classes, then it becomes an exercise in inclusion. And it becomes an exercise for the whole community and the society, and not just an individualistic exercise.
Okay, that's beautiful. So you're like literally creating the world and living out the world that you guys want to live in, even if
Exactly.
it's for like moments at a time.
Yes, yes.
Cool.
And I feel like your work is also filled with that hope that through the campaigns and the work that you are doing, eventually the whole world will become a place where the fashion industry is more equal and sensitive and non-discriminatory.
For
So
sure.
I have
Exactly.
another question for you. How do you
Mhm.
use fashion to explore different ideas about how we could be as individuals and as a collective?
Yeah. So I guess I always say that I use like fashion as like a pretense to kind of get to other questions and kind of other um perspectives and like ways of being. But really thinking about kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, nothing in fashion happens or can happen without like communities of people working to make the cloth, to grow the cotton, to make the textiles, to make the images, to wear the clothing, to do all of this. Like all of that requires us in community with each other. And just thinking about, in a fundamental way, if the labor part of this can be um improved for people, so like as they're like making their living and trying to like provide for themselves and their families, if that can be made improved on every level, then like on a community level we're already improving our communities around fashion in particular, but also just thinking about fashion as like a space for like people to express themselves and to like really kind of indulge themselves in some ways, indulge their kind of their taste, indulge their eyes, indulge their need to like see and feel and fantasize and be something different or hide parts of themselves. And like that's such an individual part, but we do that in community as well. So just thinking about like it's that kind of constant pull between like, yes, we're here to like make space for individuals to be and express and to live and to feel, but at the same time we need to be highly aware that this affects everyone around us, like in a very real like physical material way on this like earth, like what we do with the clothing and how we get these things made, how we treat people along the way. And also just thinking about Seek Lab in particular, the initiative I'm doing right now, pop-up shop and exhibition, thinking about it being a space where it's meant to engage everyone because everyone engages in fashion. Like it's very a base human kind of part of life is to get dressed, whether or not you're getting dressed to like prove that you're different or you're getting dressed to like claim allegiance to a group. We all do it and we've all done it since like the beginning of time. So just making sure, and like, you know, stereotypically fashion is known for being kind of hierarchical and like, you know, exclusive, you know, that's the way kind of the capital F fashion industry is working. So think about the initiatives I'm creating it is allowing for space for people along the whole chain of fashion to feel included in the fashion, the part that people love so much, the part that feels cool, the part that makes people have fun, like that part of it, like making sure that there's more space for everyone to be included in that part and to benefit from it.
Awesome. And like you very rightly said, that fashion is something that, we all engage with every day, and it's such an expression of our own selves to the world. And yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. So do you have any questions for me now?
I have one final question. So, why do people who necessarily wouldn't like to be called feminists still want to come and loiter?
This is a slightly tricky question because but I really feel that, a lot of protests that happen around women's rights come from this place of anger, and frustration, and especially like when a crime happens against a woman, and then there's uh, thousands of people that come out on the road and protest and have candlelight visuals and hold banners and demand for justice, which is great. I mean, that should obviously be done. But it also kind of scares off a segment of society who do not want to be that loud, angry feminists demanding for justice. And they want to be more like subtle, more played safe. Um, and for those people, I think Violator is a great entry point, because Violator is proactive. I mean, we are not waiting for any crime to happen, and we are just going out on the roads on a pretty consistent basis, just to have fun and just to loiter and just to engage with other people, in a friendly manner. We are not angry. We are exercising pleasure. So that kind of is very inviting for all kinds of people, even people who don't necessarily call themselves feminists, or who are not very sure about their politics. But when they come with us, just to walk or sing, or play a game or cycle or take the last train, um, in the doing of it, and in the embodying of what our politics is, we start having a lot of conversations around feminism, around women's rights, around equality, and and therefore it becomes a very safe space for people to kind of bring out their opinions and their perceptions of it. And eventually what happens is that people start observing, understanding, and realizing that a lot needs to be done to make spaces safer for women, and it's everybody's responsibility. It's not just the responsibility of the loud, angry feminists, but society in general. And once spaces are safer for women, they'll be safer for everybody, and it'll be a much better world for everybody. So, it's like a nice gradual sort of learning process that happens, which is entirely based on having fun and being happy and finding pleasure. So, I think this is the reason why a lot of people um, find Violator more welcoming, or sort of more safe space where they can actually express themselves.
No, that's super interesting to think about. Yeah, kind of like guiding people to the feminist thought they probably already hold, but giving them a way to kind of like express themselves or understand that framework, and probably actually like giving people like vocabulary to express things they've noticed around them, but maybe haven't had the space to have these conversations. So yeah, that makes sense like as an approach. Like, yeah.
And also these days of this cancel culture, where you say one thing that's politically incorrect and you're canceled for life, that also becomes a very scary place for people to actually say what they think or believe in. So, yeah, therefore, you need these kind of spaces which are more based on fun and pleasure and are not based on anger. And coming to the last question that I have for you, which I think is also quite connected to the question that you have asked me, how does play come into your work and why is it essential?
Yeah, these ideas are definitely connected in the sense that, yeah, like I was saying earlier with fashion, like the public, we've all been made much more like, aware of the harms of the fashion industry as far as pollution goes, as far as exploitation of workers, models, all across the chain of fashion. And yes, this exploitation and this oppression in some ways, we know that it's there and it exists. But I think that like people learn so much more and they're so much willing to like confront their own behaviors and their own kind of like, yeah, learned behaviors and ways of being through play. And that like, even though the world can be quite difficult and quite harsh sometimes, we can't let that completely define our experience of what it means to be here, and that we're allowed to push back. And that already just fundamentally fashion is fun. Like fashion fundamentally, it is fun to transform. It is fun to dress up or dress down. It's fun to try on what it to look like a different person, or to like hide parts of yourself or play with self-expression. Like that's really a fun part of what it means to be human, and like our relationship to ourselves and others. And then like, yeah, let's revel into that part of fashion, just make it more inclusive for, and make it just so that, as we're having fun, that everyone along the line working to create these spaces for us is also like living better and being able to experience not the people working, making growing the cotton, or just on that part. They also can experience the fun that comes with the other part of fashion, the image making and the transformation, just like kind of getting that fun to kind of go along the whole chain as we're improving conditions for everyone trying to gain their livelihood through this kind of very necessary industry that we all participate in. So yeah, that's how play comes into the work that I do.
Yeah, and I now that I'm thinking about it, when we were kids, fashion was so much more fun because there was much less pressure to look a certain way, or to appear a certain way, and there was no judgment or labeling amongst children. And then as you grow older, this fashion becomes like a pressure, like you have to, and you have to do this and be this and look like this, and then of course the whole aspect of the people who are working in the industry and what happens to them. Yeah, such important work, and absolutely integral to everybody's daily life. Awesome.
Exactly. Cool.
So
Well, this
I
has been
think
super great.
yeah, so I think let's hope that everybody who's watching kind of got a better idea about the work that we do. And yeah, thank you so much, Devin, and everybody
You
who's
guys
watching
enjoy the
this.
video.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Bye.